I'd like to welcome to the video. A little note before we begin, I will be identifying the slide by its number along with the title of the slide. That way the viewer can know where we are and not get lost. And I will also leave a brief pause, roughly about 5 seconds, in between each slide so the viewer can either pause or take notes before transitioning. I'd like to begin. My name is Chris Perry, currently enrolled in LaSalle University, and I am doing my final presentation in my American Architecture course. The building we will be using in this presentation is the Cathedral Basilica of St. Peter and Paul, located in Center City, Philadelphia. Buildings to note in its location, so you know where it is. If you're familiar with the Philadelphia area, it is next to the Free Library of Philadelphia and the Family Court of Philadelphia. That is right off the Ben Franklin Parkway, and that leads down to the Art Museum. Today I'll be giving you a brief little fun facts and brief history of the cathedral, along with architectural key design points that I find notable. And I will also be talking about the cathedral in Baltimore, Maryland, that I find has similar features to the St. Peter and Paul Cathedral in Philadelphia, and some aspects that it does not share that are unique to that cathedral in Baltimore, Maryland. We are now transitioning into slide number 2, Basilica at a glance. First off, the Basilica stands out in the city of skyscrapers, notably for its eloquent dome, its 4 large exterior columns, which are Corinthian columns, and its amazing stained glass windows that depict biblical scenes, biblical figures that correspond with the statues of Christ, the apostles, and other saints located throughout the cathedral. These columns are the most notable feature of the outside of the building, the external entrance, I would say, before you enter into the cathedral. The cathedral started construction in 1846 and was completed in 1864. And since then, the cathedral has been home to graduation ceremonies. It's been home to Easter vigils, other holy events, along with weddings and funerals. If you do decide, you can request it and apply to have the service there. It seats about 2,000 people, and in its most recent years, its most famous visitor was Pope Francis I during his papal visit back in 2015. We are now transitioning to slide number 3, labeled the architectural design. All right, the architectural design of the basilica is one of Italian Renaissance. This is notable by its dome, as of course because the Romans did create the dome, and that was for architectural purposes to display weight of the roof to prevent from collapsing in. This dome can be noted in various buildings in Rome because, after all, it is a Roman design. It is an Italian design as well, which means it ties into the Renaissance dome. Other aspects to mention are, along with the external 4 pillars, there are 6 internal pillars that run along the sides of the basilica internally. We are now transitioning to slide number 4, and that is a architectural design continued label slide. In this slide, as well as slide number 3, I do give you bullet points on the one side, on the other side of the image, and I do draw lines to the corresponding term to that structural identification. So I do point out the Corinthian columns. I point out the roof, which can also be seen on Greek structures along with Roman structures, and and the designs on the pillars, which are the Corinthian designs. I will be transitioning now into slide number 5, labeled floor plan. If you would like to pause the video, now would be a good time to go back and take notes. I will give it a few more seconds before I continue. Moving on to the floor plan, the little fun fact is there is a Star of David located on the floor plan or the floor of the cathedral, paying homage to Christ is Jewish. Most people don't know that. But the floor plan is laid into the form of cruciform, and that's some fancy word to say it's in the shape of a cross. In the floor, there are 4 sets of pews. In the lower quadrants of the cross, which the floor is laid out cruciform, there are a left and a right rear section of the pews, and then there are the upper left and upper right quadrants, which are the front row pews located closest to the main chapel. Pardon me for not pronouncing this right. It's Apese, or Apese, spelled A-P-S-E, which is the semicircle design of the chorus. The chorus is located in the back of the church and faces the main altar along with the organ. It is set up to face the east, to face the rising sun. Most basilicas and churches have this feature. It's very notable. We are now moving on to slide number 6, labeled Basilica Interior. In this slide, there are little points to note in the basilica's internal design. Fun fact about the basilica, it does not have one main chapel in the large room that is in the interior. It has 8, 4 on each side, the left and the right. And those chapels are paying homage to other holy figures, along with the main one. You can visit those whenever you want while there's no service going on or after the service. There's also a marble mosaic dome. For those who don't know, a mosaic is a bunch of smaller squares, we'll say marble, which is what it's made out of, and they are cut and shaped in certain shapes to form a larger image. This can be seen on many architectural buildings, mostly holy ones, depicting Christ, or you can see them during the Italian Renaissance where they depict many different scenes. Maybe, for an example, you can look up the creation or God giving life to Adam. There's probably a mosaic form out there. Also inside, there are the chorus section was noted in slide 5, along with the main organ of the cathedral. And it also has a Baldachin, don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, I will spell it, Baldachm, which goes to the antique Italian marble. We're now moving on to the 6 Verde marble columns. I know my Italian is a little shoddy. Verde is green. Verdant marble columns. As I stated earlier, they run 3 along this side of the wall and 3 along this. They are main support load-bearing columns. They are Corinthian columns as well as the external columns that I previously mentioned. We are now moving on to slide number 7, the interior continued. And now I will be showing you a slide picture of the dome. It is important to note that, as I said earlier, it is a mosaic dome. Also included in top of the dome are windows that go all the way around the dome, along with a top window that shines directly down onto the altar. This is to allow more light to shine onto the main chapel for Mass. It's a nice key feature to add in to allow more light to come in. This is also a feature in another building located in Rome. I'm not sure the name, but inside it does depict statues of other holy figures. We are now moving on to slide number 8, labeled the Baltimore Cathedral of the Assumption of the Basilica Virgin Mary. For this, I will be identifying the Virgin Mary as the Virgin Mary Basilica, just to save time, of course. On this slide, you do see a picture of the Basilica. The Basilica was constructed between the years of 1806 to 1821. A picture of this can be found in the class textbook located In the second edition of the textbook to note, on page 135, say again, it's page 135 in the second edition of our American Architecture textbook. We are now transitioning into slide number 9. Slide number 9 is a comparison of both cathedrals. On the image, I do show the Cathedral Basilica of St. Peter and the Virgin Mary Basilica. I will note some down comparisons for you. Both basilicas are built in a neoclassical design. That's one thing they share. Both basilicas do have a dome and are built in the cruciform format design, as I said earlier, that is in the shape of a cross. But to note, Peter and Paul have a Paladin facade, while the Virgin Mary has a classical Greek facade, which is very different. Peter and Paul has Corinthian columns. As I noted, there's exterior, large 4 exterior, and internal 6 load-bearing interior columns are Corinthian columns, as the Basilica of the Virgin Mary has Ionic columns, which are not as decorative as the Corinthians. Slide 10, I will be talking about another interior designs of the Virgin Mary Basilica. The inside of the Virgin Mary Basilica is much smaller. To note, when you walk in to those main doors at St. Peter and Paul, it opens up to this grandiose room. In St. Peter and Paul, it is gilded, which means a lot of gold. Going back to the Gilded Age, during the Renaissance, where gold showed wealth and power and prosperity, while the Virgin Mary is not. It's very ornate. It's a lot smaller inside. I do have a picture to show you. Another thing is it's very simple as the gilded of St. Peter and Paul. Inside of Virgin Mary, they aren't as gilded. It's very plain white walls, very it doesn't have that many statues depicting holy figures. It looks luster, as another way to say it. But it does still have another aspect. It has that cruciform floor plan, which most churches do have. Slide 11 is labeled. Is the inside, as I stated, I would show you, is the inside. As you can see, it's very white facade, very plain and boring, compared to the grandiose of the St. Peter and Paul Cathedral located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I'm now moving on to slide 12. The reason why the cathedral was chosen by me, as it holds a very, I would say, very sentimental place to me. I did attend Roman Catholic High School for Boys, which is the oldest Catholic high school for boys in the country. It is a very nice building. It did survive a fire. Prior to that fire, it did have a very nice observatory, but it has white walls and a giant Celtic cross on top, and it does look like an old castle and church. Most people will note, so feel free to check that out. It's located on Broad and Vine in Center City. But I would celebrate Mass for Roman in the cathedral. So I remember the most impressive thing for me would be to remember seeing the dome, and how when we would sing our school's alma mater song, how it would the dome would allow this echo of our fight song to bounce around through the walls, and it was very like a prideful moment. Also, was where I ended my career at Roman. Was my graduation back in spring of 2017, which I hold very dear. Hold on one second. Someone called me and it knocked my camera off. There we go. That concludes my presentation of the Cathedral Basilica of St. Peter and Paul, located in Center City, Philadelphia. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it informative, and I hope that I managed to stay on top of the labeling of my slides the best of my abilities. If you have any questions, please email me or contact me. Professor, you have my email. and YouTube channel now. So hope you have a nice day and stay safe during the quarantine.